And with 75% of VC-backed companies never return the capital. It's not because of bad ideas. It's just, crumbling through execution. What do I do next? What I should be watching for a prioritization.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Impact Exchange, where we bring you real conversations with founders building meaningful solutions in the AI and B2B space. Today, I'm joined by someone I'm especially excited about to host, Elisabeth Bykoff. She's a serial operator, investor, and now founder of Boxy.io, an AI powered COO helping founders simplify operations and fundraising. And fun fact, we are both based in Austin, so this is a
Yeah.
local founder story too. Elizabeth, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Saumya. Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure to have you as well, Elizabeth. I want to start with your journey, Elizabeth, because it's not typical first-time founder story for you. You have been in the startup ecosystem for years, operator, advisor, even angel investor. But what I found really interesting when I was looking for Boxy and with our last conversation, the idea for Boxy came when you kept getting asked the same operational questions again and again. So can you take us back to the moment and tell us when you realized there has to be a better way to support founders?
Yeah, and let me also, before I get to that point, I think pre that point, I started my career in consulting. I'm a consulting baby, and despite having an aerospace engineering, master, I ended up getting an MBA like everybody else, and then rerouting really quickly. So, for me, I call it the intrapreneurial journey started at PwC when I had a chance to sell the first Salesforce.com project for them for the US firm, and then building that practice, helping found and build that practice. Which, again, I had a big brand behind me. I wouldn't say I had a blank check, but there was not the same high risk, high stake, high risk, but we still needed to deliver, right? We still needed to generate money, which we did, and the practice is even way bigger now. And then in 2017, it was time to sign my life away. And that's when I jumped into, the startup ecosystem, right? I was in the Bay Area and I really enjoyed the building part. I was not as excited anymore about selling and delivering, right? I was just like, hey, I should go figure out what is it to build and sell products, right? Versus people and services. And so I really spent, the last 9 years doing that, as you mentioned, right? Operator. I didn't go very far. I didn't go crazy right away to early stage. I was with Aptus, now Conga, 250 million globally, 290 when I left them, right? And then I just kept getting earlier and earlier stage. And like you said, doing angel investments or coaching startups formally, informally, with the Morgan Stanley Inclusive Ventures Lab, for example, great program, or even some of previous colleague that had decided to be founders now, right? And the turning point was really at the end of 22 when ChatGPT came out. I thought the tech was finally here to not just have founders call the network, do Google search, and just figure out like, how do I set up, my demand gen engine, or, how do I do X, right? I thought, hey, I think the tech is here to really allow founders to focus on building and selling, and then all the, I call it crap, we still have to do to operate and scale a business. How can we really guide them and really accelerate that and increase the success rate for founders? That was the turning point. Obviously, since 22, we all know we went from LLMs to agent frameworks to MCP to now, Claude announcing something 3 days ago around, separating brain and agent. And you're like, oh crap, like, where's this going? But because of that, the journey of Boxy kind of evolved with the AI, right? Where it was just guidance. And I think one of my friends, an investor, was like, oh, you're trying to build startup for dummies, those yellow books, remember those? And at the time it was like, yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. And now it's like, how much can we do for founders, not just guide, but do too. So that was really the turning point.
Awesome. And like you mentioned with the AI onset and how much founders can really do. So emphasize more on, and let's go deep. When you say how much founders can do, so what aspects Boxy is solving and what they're struggling most with, the founders?
Yeah, the vision for Boxy is really to be, you start your company, you select your name, which is can be tricky. I think we've all, I don't know if you've, when you were looking for the name of the podcast, right? Like, what is it going to be called? How can I use it? So, assuming you pick a name for the company, you pick your domain, you buy your email provider. The vision is Boxy is your third tool, right? As the third, your sidekick. Like, what do I do next? How do I register for a company, and really being with you from day one, right? And then obviously helping you scale and then manage all of your operations. We had to start somewhere. I talked to over 100 plus founders early stage, and it was always three things that came back through all these interviews. I hate fundraising. I need help with demand, revenue operations,
Yep.
what I call, right? So not just demand, but also post sale, like managing those customers, and then hiring talent. And so we decided to double down on fundraising, and we pivoted a bit and we revalidated several times. And so now, you can join Boxy 5 minutes, you're set up, and you have your entire fundraising operating system and sidekick ready for you. So what does it mean? If you're doing your fundraising in spreadsheet or with DocSend or a combination of all these siloed tools, we all collapse that into one platform. So your fundraising pipeline is managed for you, plugged into your email and calendar. We have an investor database of 150,000 contacts for you to look into, people you should be reaching out to, and we're adding the outreach engine behind it. Data room is included, investor updates included. We're about to release application tracker if you look for grants or pitch competition, and all the ways you want to bring awareness. So all this is in there for you. You don't have to do it in 20 different systems, and it's all guided. You can ask questions to your sidekick and where you should focus today or anything like that is there for you. So that's where we're starting, and we have more coming up, from a whole COO and demand gen, but that's where we are.
That's wonderful. It's the right package, like you said. Get an email, get your domain, and then just get Boxy, right? And to wrap up with, like you said, Boxy will provide you the whole solution, starting with fundraising. So, what do people outside the startup world get completely wrong about fundraising or running a startup, and they really need to know how Boxy can help?
Yeah, it's a big two things. One, I think as first time founders, you don't always know where to start. And I think that's the biggest thing that I wanted to address, was to be able to create leverage for founders, right? It's not because it's your first time that you should be at a disadvantage in terms of raising capital, obviously, but also as operating the company. And believe it or not, I think some of us that now have gone through the journey multiple times, there is a lot, and some of it is not fun at all, right? It's like things you got to do to be compliant. For example, pay your
Mm-hmm.
taxes or
Yep.
filing your tax return, right? This is not fun. It costs you money, but you got to do it. And and I've been at companies, at Series A's companies, where they had missed some of those compliance tasks for years, and when they got their investment, that they took a dunk on their premium from that
Wow.
investor, right? Because the
Okay.
investor knew they had to help them post investment file for some of the taxes they had forgotten to pay for 20 years or something. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of people think operations is not as important. And it's true. You need to build a product that people love and you need to sell. But at some point, if you want to scale and be a successful company, you're going to have an operational backbone, right? Some of it is going to be scrappy at the beginning, and then you're going to scale it. But we're trying to give you the scale right away. So then you don't forget to do those things, and you don't have to then, tell investor, crap, we forgot, right? So we're kind of building this ops readiness score, which is really also a fundraising readiness score in a way, where you can show that to your investors to say, hey, we have the build, we have the product, we have the traction. And look, if you give us a check, we're ready to scale. We can use it. We have the processes in place, the people, whatever, and we're ready to take it to the next level. That's what we're trying to also share with founders, because it's not what we think about first thing in the morning, right? It's not.
Yeah, and like you said, for founders, it's not just about building a product. There's everything that comes around with it, and that becomes overwhelming. And
Yeah.
that's where Boxy is helping, in every stage and every step, to get them comfortable and not miss all those, compliances, or even they can be busy doing what they should actually be doing. So yes, definitely it gets overwhelming for startups, and Boxy is here to help. Let's talk more about Boxy here. I loved how you describe it, almost like a AI COO for startups. But what stood out to me was that fundraising approach. Can you break down in terms of fundraising tracking, investment tracking, data room updates, getting a glimpse of what it looks like to founder on day-to-day operations?
Yeah. So one of the big things I wanted was to make sure that we as founder had a minimum amount of manual updates to do, especially from a
Mm.
pipeline perspective. Because, when I started fundraising, I was on a spreadsheet. So, every email, every LinkedIn interaction, you had to put it in the spreadsheet. Who is it? Their email, potential notes, anything like that. And so we integrate directly into your Gmail, Gmail, email, calendar. And what we do is two things. One of the sidekick looks at your email and says, "Hey, I think you've talked to investor A. Do you want them in your pipeline? Yes or no?" And then two, any activity that happens with that how you call it, that investor, we actually
Mhm.
monitor for it. We move the deal, or your conversation through the pipeline based on what we read, the sentiment analysis and all that. And so we also follow up. So if we see that you have done, and I keep getting those emails, for example, 14 days or 5-7 days of non-engagement with an investor, we kind of highlight those follow-ups, like you should be following up with investor B. You haven't talked to investor A for 5 days, all those things. So we're really trying to be that sidekick that, in some cases you have somebody else doing that for you, but in most cases we're all doing that for ourselves. So that's the kind of thing that when you log into Boxy every morning, you have those follow-ups and what do I have to do today, right? From a
Just
fundraising
like
perspective.
dashboard giving you
Yeah.
all those tracking. And what are the key KPIs you think startups are getting through Boxy today using?
Yeah. In terms of the KPIs from a fundraising, we're tracking active conversations, so active investors, a number of follow-ups. We're also tracking from an analytics in the data room, who's viewing, how many views, who's viewing, what are they viewing. From an investor update, same thing. You can see how many people are actually receiving and reading your updates. So you can actually get back, if they're interested, they're reading, therefore you can re-engage with them. And the big thing that we're launching in the next 4 weeks that we had during our beta testing is that we're going to be plugging into QuickBooks, HubSpot, bank accounts, and then we're bringing your key
Wow.
KPIs into the platform. So as a founder, you can see your runway, you can see your cash on hand, your revenue, any key metrics that you need to know as a founder and you would anyway share with potential investors in your updates in your data room. All that will be in the platform for you to be able to share it and to just drive insights for you as a founder to tell you, hey, careful, it might be time to go get money somewhere, right? Like, so traction and all that, so you don't run out of money. That's one of the big things. I think the stats are appalling, right? 44% of startups run out of money before they even raise capital. We
Mhm.
all know the 90% of founders never raise Series A. We know that number. But the interesting one was 75% of VC backed companies never return the capital. And it's really high. So that's even founders that have taken money, right? That have raised some kind of money, never return it. 7%. That's billions of dollars every year wasted,
That's just the
right?
waste. Yeah.
And in some cases, it's not because of the idea. Yeah, there's always,
Hmm.
we always have some of us have, we'll have bad ideas, right? We're like, oh, this is so cool. No. But in a lot of cases, it's not because of bad ideas. It's just, crumbling through execution. What do I do next? What I should be watching for a prioritization. Why are you doing this when you should be really doing that? That's what's critical, right? And so the goal is really to increase the chance of success by having Boxy helping you with that and always keeping an eye on your metrics, guiding you, guiding plus
Along the way. Yeah.
orchestrating for you while you focus on that build and that traction.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I think you rightly pointed. This is a founder system, and taking and walking side by side in your whole journey. And you are a founder as well. You come with experience and you have seen it all. And let's talk more into the real founder life of yours as well. You are currently bootstrapping. You have small team, and you're building product, this Boxy, and doing sales yourself. What's been the hardest part for yourself in this journey?
I'm a solo founder, so it was not the plan, but that's how it ended up. I think for me, the three things that have been really, really hard. So I should say I'm a solo founder and I'm a non-tech founder. So I can read code, but I can't code myself. So thank God for vibe coding. So now I can do a bunch of
Yep.
stuff, which sometimes is I shouldn't be doing all that stuff. But anyway, so for me, the tech part has been difficult, because I have managed multi-million-dollar implementations. So I'm dangerous enough to understand what it means to build something. And I guess my expectations in this case are getting higher and higher every day. So, having to, sometimes, okay, it's okay. It's not perfect. Let's go out with it. let's figure it out, right? So that's been difficult, and it's me and the engineering team. So there is not a tech leader or engineering leader or CTO or co-founder with me that's like, Elisabeth, don't worry about this. I'm gonna get it done. You go focus on the other side. And so that's been difficult. I think the other piece is because of the solo founder, you don't have somebody you can commiserate with every day or bounce ideas. You have to rely on your network and your fellow founders and your advisors. So I have to admit, my white walls are great, but they don't answer. There is no feedback from it.
You can listen.
So finding that community and that support when you're solo founders is very important, and it's been sometimes difficult. You're just on your own, right? It's nothing bad, right? We're all founders and all that. And I think the last thing has been, I've realized I'm not really good asking for help and support. I think I give a lot. Apparently I always love helping others and other founders, and so I've had to suck it up and put myself out there and say, no, actually I do need help, or hey, I do need support. And so that's been definitely a learning experience that I don't think was as flagrant when I was more in day-to-day job or anything like that. So yeah, I would say these are the three areas that's been definitely a challenge.
Challenging, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, continuously, having that customer acquisition cycle as well, doing it all by yourself is definitely important. And somewhere Boxy is helping other founders and yourself as well to manage at least the operation side, which is also, quite overwhelming at this stage. So coming back to, Boxy vision, as you mentioned, what are the next steps? You're excited about what's coming. Where do you see next 6 months for Boxy? Where is your vision in terms of having more customers, any more updates, like you said, as tech updates? Where is
Yeah.
it going?
Yeah, so definitely focus on traction. So the goal is to put as many founders as we can on the platform. We have a goal of 500, 1,000. I mean, ideally 1,000 startups by the end of the year, which I better get cranking. It's already April, so we're definitely aiming for that for the rest of the year. That's really the double down. Well, some of the things that are exciting and coming is that we're going to have our first version of the COO with the ops readiness launched in a couple of weeks, and be able to put that out there and get feedback on the new version of it. Right, we had a very simplified checklist during the beta testing program, and so now we've added the agents, the start of the agents, to do that and make it really valuable. So you can it's literally autonomously doing tasks for you, and then you get to review it, and human in the loop, you still have full control of what's going on. And then after that, it's just talking to founders more recently. I think some of them needed a bit more support in terms of fundraising or demand gen, or even as a COO, for later stage founders and Series A.
Mhm.
So we've kind of built some services package around Boxy, so Boxy enabled, but really to help accelerate the adoption of the product, but just founders in general, like, hey, okay, let's get you in 4 weeks, you're fundraising ready. You have 75 investors in your pipeline. Your data room's up and running. Do you know what I mean? So we're all powered by Boxy, but like with my help, to really spend time on getting people cranking from a fundraising, demand gen, and then the full blown CO. I'm really excited to see what happens with those. It's brand new, but I think some founders just need a bit more support or want that more support, right? And so we wanted to make that available also through the platform and through me and all that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and definitely we want to help the goal of having more founders try Boxy and get to that goal of 1,000 you mentioned. So what are you doing today in terms of growth, and what's been working for you to have that faster customer acquisition for Boxy as well?
Yeah, the goal was obviously going direct, but one-on-one, it's a bit of a volume business.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things that I'm working on right now is about like a 3, 4, 5 prong approach, if I can say that. One is to work with all the startup communities that I'm part of here in Austin or other places, and make Boxy available for their founders at a discounted price in some cases, or even as programs, embedded programs, white labeling, anything like that. So I've been on a partnership campaign, I call it, right? And just we've already, for example, we're available as part of the Gilder community as a perk, and we're going to keep adding more communities and startup ecosystem partners, if that makes sense. So that's number one. We are going to go back to the investors that I talked to in the last 2 years. And, I'm going to take the approach of, hey, now we're live with this. I think this could be super helpful for your portfolio. Again, we're going to approach that as a potential channel there too, even from an investor perspective. And see what happens. And then, I'm going like everybody else, right? Social media outbound. Outbound is not as successful. I'm not going to lie. You have to reach a lot of people to make it happen. And with AI, I think we're all getting hit with, I don't know how many emails a day,
Yes.
which is really annoying. So, more inbound, really trying to drive traffic, right, through social media posting, and then trying a couple of lead magnets, just to do that. So testing with that. I really want a referral program. I think some of our longtime supporters, our founders, you all have communities of founders or peers that you talk to. So we want to reward that. And say, be our ambassadors. So kind of an ambassador program a bit, or influencer. We're going to make our founders be influencers. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
um,
Brand.
and then last but not least, we just launched today our We Funder campaign. So it's an equity crowdfunding campaign. And we really hope that, founders will join us. So if you invest in Boxy, even a few bucks, it starts as low as $100, that you help us build this company because we're building for you. And so if we're successful, the least we can do is give you some return on investment and be a lifetime ambassador of investor founder for us. So that's something I'm excited about, because I had a few people not possibly committing to an angel check, but really wanted to be part of the journey. So we're using, really, that's the way for me to say, hey, we're really building for you. Come and join us, and any dollar help, right? And so, yeah.
No, this is a true, way of looking for partnership, like you said, across the board, across the channel, reaching out to as many early stage founders to Series A and B, and then looking at investors partnerships. So what is a message you want to give for investors today, thinking about Boxy? As you explained for founders, what do you want to share with investors?
Yeah, it's I'm going to share one thing which is not as, maybe a bit controversial, right? I didn't set up to build a Copilot. It's funny because I had some founders coaching me at the time, way back in 23, like, put Copilot everywhere in your deck, right? And I didn't. I took the longer route, which is really building a platform, which, as you know, with integrations and all that, take more time despite vibe coding. And so, I sure hope that, investors understand that what we're trying to build is something for the long run, with high value for founders, but high value for investors too, right?
Too,
Because if
yeah.
we manage to increase the rate of success on the startup side, the investors make way more money, right? Instead of 1%, we get to 2%, you're making more money, right? That's the goal. It's like everybody goes up together. It's not just the founders, right? This is good for investors, ideally, right? But it's not an easy platform. It's not it's not a lovable, it's not a cursor, it's not the $20 and all of a sudden we're going to be $20 million tomorrow. I hope so. Like, maybe, I don't know. But, it's just a reality that it takes knowledge and IP, and, to build something that's really valuable. That's not another task management. That's what we're trying to build. And so, a bit not, controversial, but that's really what I would want to say. The second is, join us. Like, if you think there's a better way, if you have input, please, you have met hundreds of thousands of startups.
Yes.
It's not just my opinion what's going into the product where I think there is value. I've talked to 100 plus of startups, coached them, all that. But there is also a point of view from investors. And I got some, absolutely, from my investors, and then obviously all the investors I've talked to, because I've demoed the platform. But please join us. Like, we're here to just, everybody makes more money. Like, everybody's better, more successful. So, get excited. Like, I think there is a play here for the next small team that's going to be a unicorn with 10 people, 15 people, and a Boxy. That's what we're trying to do, right? To prove that point that you can be really successful with smaller team.
Right, it's a perfect win-win, like I said, marketplace that you're building, not just for founders, but more importantly for investors as well, and there should be a great partnership looking at this. Now, as we, wrap around our whole podcast and founders pain that you discuss, how Boxy can solve, what's a piece of advice? You've coached so many startup founders. What's a piece of advice that you would like to give, to founders to stop something immediately and think about using Boxy?
Yeah, if you want to get out of some of your spreadsheets, stop it. Spreadsheets are great, they're free, but at the end of the day, they're, despite Claude and everything else, it's still not it's not great. It doesn't have your context. It doesn't have everything. So if you're sick and tired of spreadsheet, please do come to Boxy, at least for fundraising first. But, and I know I am, because I'm, for some stuff, I'm still in spreadsheets, not fundraising, but that would be the big thing. Spreadsheet will always be there. We know that it's free. It will always be useful, but let's get people out of spreadsheet and really having a system that's valuable and really now being autonomously doing things for you and in your context and with your memory and all that stuff. So then you're good at
And
it.
one thing that they should start doing earlier than they think.
I made that mistake. So and I'm sure I made plenty of other mistakes, but I think my desire to have a product that was maybe better than it should have when I first launched, no, we need this little thing, or I need to fix this little thing. And I think, for some of us, it's not like looking for perfection, but we just thought, oh, one more thing. And that was my, way back. I think, you don't have to do that anymore. I started before Lovable was really solid and V0 and Orchid and you name it, right? Vector. You don't have to do that anymore. Like if I were a founder today and I would not have started Boxy, I would have started vibe coding, like just for an MVP, like just for a prototype, right? Like just go build something. There will be bugs. It's okay. There will be things that don't work. It's okay. And put it out there and get your feedback. I think this is the major difference from years ago, right? Now you can do that whether you're a non-tech or tech, even tech founder, before you start coding. And I think that's the biggest thing. And if it's not working, don't waste your time. Just think through it, go back to your interviews, find something else and go rebuild or build something else and go find this thing that really is valuable for people. Like I said, I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it at the beginning, right? Like, I think we all are at some point. So yeah.
No, like you said, that AI vibe coding, this has become like a default for startups now. So start doing it if you haven't, build more importantly. Yeah. Elisabeth, this has been really an insightful conversation. And what I really took away is, founders don't get overwhelmed. There's a AI CEO for you, starting with the fundraising to the execution to, take you along the way with your operations. Boxy, and get it sooner than the later and be more structured, get away from your spreadsheets. And what you are building and you're coming up with more and more, refinement is the way to go. And I hope, more investors as well join hands and this could be a real win-win on both sides. So final thought, where can people learn more about you and Boxy?
Yeah, so for Boxy, feel free to go to the website, boxsy.io. And then you can sign up if you're interested, 14-day free trial. And then if you have any questions or need any support, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Always happy to get on a call. And if there's anything, any little thing that can help, even if it's a 30-minute conversation you need to vent, sometimes that just helps. Please feel free to reach out. Always happy to meet as many founders as I can.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Real pleasure to have you. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to follow the Impact Exchange, and we'll see you in the next episode.